Hello, young scholars. Today's reading is an introduction to a time period in history called the Renaissance. The word Renaissance is French, and the translation actually means rebirth. So the question is, if the time period is called a rebirth, what exactly is being reborn? You remember that time period that historians call the Dark Ages? Well, the Renaissance happens right after the Dark Ages. People living in Europe during the Dark Ages were stuck. There wasn't really a lot of learning going on. Their economy wasn't very strong. Everyone lived on the manor system, not a lot of cultural diffusion. Towards the end of the Middle Ages, and part of the reason why it starts to end, is that people in Europe, through events like the Crusades, were being exposed to new cultures and new ideas and new people that were going to cause them to think about how they could get unstuck in Europe and bring themselves out of the Dark Ages. They started to think about the time period before the Middle Ages. So we're jumping back even further now. A time when ancient Greece and ancient Rome had their golden ages. People in the Middle Ages were thinking, how can we get back to that? How can we have our own golden age? How can we improve our lives here in Europe during this terrible time? So the word Renaissance means rebirth. In particular, it's talking about the rebirth of Greek and Roman culture during that time of the Golden Age. The ideas of the Renaissance are going to spread all throughout Europe, but they begin in Italy. Italy is considered the birthplace of the Renaissance. Now, there are three very specific reasons why Italy is a good place for a Renaissance to begin, but our aim question today is to consider this. Could the Renaissance have happened anywhere other than Italy? After we learn about the conditions in Italy that were perfect for a Renaissance, you'll think about whether there are any other places in the world that might have experienced a Renaissance too. Or was it meant to be only in Italy? So here's a quick overview of your reading today and the three reasons why Italy had the advantage when it came to the Renaissance. The first advantage is that because of its geographic location in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea and being a peninsula, it was the perfect place for trade to happen. Cities in Italy became very urban. People would move there to get jobs, and they would move there to become merchants and to profit off of the trade. The second advantage that Italy has is that because of that trade and those cities, a large class of merchants began to grow, like a new social class. A merchant is a person who buys and then sells goods for a profit. That's how they make their living. Now in Italy, because of these major urban cities all throughout the peninsula, there was a large proportion of merchants, and many of them were able to become not just rich, but very wealthy. In your reading today, you'll read about one very wealthy merchant and banking family called the Medicis. The third advantage that Italy has for being the birthplace of the Renaissance is its heritage. When people during the Renaissance were reflecting back and looking back in history for what life was like during the Roman Empire's golden age, the Pax Romana, or the Greek Empire's golden age, they were thinking about their ancestors. The heart of the Roman Empire was Rome, which is in Italy. So they had ancestral ties. They were descendants of people who had lived through a great golden age from before. And we also know that the Roman Empire borrowed a lot of its ideas from classical Greece and their golden age. So there's your overview for today, students. Do your annotations, give it some thought, and then answer today's aim. Could the Renaissance have happened anywhere besides Italy?